$3 million. That was my family's inheritance, built over 4 generations, protected through recessions, wars, and decades of sacrifice. And in less than 4 years, almost all of it was gone. Transferred. Drained. Stolen. By the two people I trusted with my entire life. My wife. And my best friend. And the worst part? They were planning to take the last of it and disappear together forever. What I did when I found out, I am still not entirely sure whether to call it justice or something colder. You decide. Before I tell you everything, I need you to understand something about how I responded. When I discovered what had been done to me, I did not scream. I did not confront them. I did not do anything visible for 3 full weeks except document, plan, and prepare. Because the only way to respond to a betrayal this calculated is with something even more calculated. By the time I was finished, Sophia had lost everything she had spent years quietly acquiring. Marcus had lost everything he believed was untouchable. And both of them were staring at 4 walls with nothing left but the choices they had made. This is that story. My grandfather built the family trust over 40 years. Real estate, bonds, managed funds, a portfolio that by the time it reached me was valued at just under $3 million. I inherited it at 29, after my father passed. The trust had specific conditions. It could not be liquidated wholesale, but distributions could be made for approved family investments and expenses. I was the primary trustee. I had full visibility over the accounts and a co-trustee for oversight. Or so I believed. I met Sophia when I was 27. She was intelligent, ambitious, and absolutely captivating. We married after 2 years together. She was warm with my family, always respectful of the inheritance structure, and never once appeared to push for more than we needed. What I did not know until much later was that within 8 months of our wedding, Sophia had begun taking a very specific interest in the trust's quarterly financial reports, asking to review them herself, offering to handle the administrative paperwork. She was positioning herself methodically. From the very first year. Marcus had been my best friend since college. 14 years. He was a financial consultant by profession, which is part of why I made the catastrophic mistake of trusting him with something I should never have trusted anyone outside of family. 18 months into my marriage, I added Marcus as an informal advisor to our family's investment discussions. He helped restructure 2 of the trust's real estate positions and improved our yield. I was genuinely grateful. I told him so. That gratitude, I would eventually learn, was precisely the opening he had been waiting for. It started with a number that was just slightly wrong. I was reviewing a quarterly statement when I noticed a distribution figure that did not match the approval I had signed. Not by a lot, about $12,000. I asked Sophia. She had an explanation ready immediately, a processing adjustment on a property maintenance contract. Plausible. I accepted it. But something in the back of my mind kept that number. I did not know it yet, but I had just found the first thread of something that would unravel everything. 4 months later, another discrepancy. Then another. Each one small enough to explain. Each one with a ready answer from Sophia, sometimes from Marcus. But when I laid all 3 anomalies side by side on a single spreadsheet one night, I felt something cold move through me. Because separately, they were nothing. Together, they were a pattern. Patterns do not lie. I did not say anything to either of them. Instead, I found a forensic accountant through my attorney, a woman who had spent 20 years untangling exactly this kind of fraud. I handed her everything and told her to find what I was missing. She came back to me 11 days later. I want to tell you I remained completely calm as I read her report. I did not. I had to excuse myself, walk to the bathroom of her office, and stand at the sink with the water running for about 4 minutes before I could return to the table. Because what the audit showed was not 3 discrepancies. It was 47. 47 separate transactions over 3.5 years, totaling $1,240,000 redistributed through a layered series of shell accounts constructed specifically to hide the trail. The accounts had been built with extraordinary sophistication. The kind that requires someone who understands financial structures at a professional level, the kind Marcus had. But they also required insider access to the trust's administrative credentials, the kind Sophia had positioned herself to hold. They had been working together from the beginning. What I had believed was a marriage and a friendship was, from a certain angle, a business partnership. And I had been the target of it from almost the first day. The forensic accountant found something else, something that changed the urgency of everything. In the 3 months before the audit, the frequency and size of transfers had increased sharply. 2 new shell accounts had appeared, never previously used. They had travel expenditures attached. Flights. A property lease in another country. They were not just stealing from me. They were staging a departure. A complete life, built with my family's money, waiting for them somewhere else. They planned to disappear within 60 days. I had less than 2 months to stop it. I sat in my car in the parking garage below the accountant's building for 40 minutes. And I made the decision that I believe prevented a catastrophic mistake. I decided I would not react. Not yet. Not visibly. Because the moment they sensed I knew, the remaining money would vanish before I could stop it, and the legal case I was building would collapse with it. I had one opportunity to do this correctly. I was not going to sacrifice it for the temporary relief of a confrontation. So I drove home. I sat across from Sophia at dinner. And I said absolutely nothing. Over the next 18 days, I worked exclusively through my legal and financial team, nothing through emotion. I retained a fraud attorney. Not a divorce attorney, a fraud attorney. The distinction matters enormously. Using emergency trust provisions I had not known existed until my attorney explained them, I had the trust accounts frozen at the institutional level. The freeze was invisible to Sophia and Marcus for the first 72 hours. During those 72 hours, 2 additional transfer attempts failed silently. Those failed transfers became Exhibits A through C in what was about to become a federal fraud case. By day 18, my attorney described the case file as, and I am quoting directly, one of the cleaner fraud packages she had seen in 15 years of practice. Every transaction documented. Every shell account mapped. Every email between Sophia and Marcus about the transfers recovered from shared cloud backups that neither of them had thought to secure. There were messages discussing the timeline. Messages where Sophia referred to me in terms I will not repeat here. Messages where Marcus explained how to structure the final withdrawal to avoid automatic alerts. Every word. Preserved. Time-stamped. Legally obtained. On a Thursday morning, while Sophia was at a yoga class and Marcus was at his office, federal fraud investigators executed simultaneous interviews at both locations. Not arrests, interviews. The kind you cannot legally decline. The kind where everything you say becomes part of a permanent record. Neither of them knew the other was being interviewed at the same moment. Neither knew what the investigators already held. According to my attorney, who was briefed on the outcomes, both of them gave contradictory accounts of the same transactions. Which is precisely what investigators needed to hear. Sophia came home that afternoon. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a single folder in front of me, a summary document my attorney had prepared for this exact moment. I slid it across without a word. I watched her open it. I watched her read the first page. And then I said, very quietly, I know everything. I know about every account. I know about the plan. I know about the tickets. I want you to understand that I did not do anything to cause this. You are going to need an excellent attorney. She sat at that table for a very long time. She did not say a single word back to me. I called Marcus that evening. 1 phone call. 90 seconds. I told him the investigators had his emails, his account architecture, and his travel records. I told him that Sophia had already spoken to investigators, and that whatever version of events she had provided, it was probably not the version that protected him. Then I said the last thing I would ever say to him in my life, I am sorry that who you actually are was hidden from me for this long. And I hung up. He called back 17 times that night. I did not answer a single one. The marital home purchased using a down payment that documented evidence now showed came partially from diverted trust funds was subject to civil asset recovery as part of the fraud case. My attorney filed within days. What is not instant is the recovery process. What is instant is the court order restricting any sale, transfer, or leveraging of the property. Sophia could not sell it. Could not extract equity. Could not use it as collateral for legal fees. It simply sat there inaccessible while the case moved forward around it. Marcus's professional situation collapsed faster than I had anticipated. A federal fraud investigation, even one that has not yet produced charges, does not remain private in the financial consulting industry. His firm placed him on indefinite administrative leave within the week. His professional license was flagged for review. His existing clients began transferring their accounts elsewhere before the month was out. The income that had funded his share of the life he and Sophia had constructed together gone. In approximately 3 weeks. The civil recovery process moved faster than my attorney had expected. The documentation was simply too thorough to dispute effectively. Within 4 months, the court had ordered recovery of $860,000 in traced and confirmed fraudulent transfers. The marital property was included in the recovery calculation and eventually liquidated as part of the judgment. Sophia vacated the house, by court order, carrying what she could physically take with her. Marcus, who had used their shared hidden accounts to fund a property lease, found those accounts frozen under the same recovery order. Both of them were left with what they had before they ever met me. Which, as it turned out, was not much. I do not track these people. But information moves on its own. Sophia is in another city, renting a room. The civil fraud judgment follows her financial record. Marcus lost his license and cannot work in regulated financial consulting. They did not build the life they had planned together. The relationship that survived betrayal did not survive collapse. The architecture that held it together was built entirely from things that no longer exist. The last information that reached me, they have not spoken in months. The recovery process brought back roughly 63% of what was taken. Not everything. Some had been spent in ways that made recovery legally impossible. But the trust still stands. My grandfather's work endures, diminished, but intact. I have restructured it with controls that would have made what happened structurally impossible from the beginning. 2 independent co-trustees. Automated audit flags on every distribution. Quarterly external forensic reviews. The loss was real. What protects what remains is stronger than anything that came before it. I want to tell you where I am now, because I think the story is incomplete without it. I did not emerge from this experience bitter. I emerged from it precise. Precise about what loyalty actually looks like in practice, not in language. Precise about the difference between people who are genuinely with you and people who are adjacent to what you possess. I am not in a relationship. I am not in a hurry toward one. I am in a different city, building something that is entirely mine. And for the first time in years, the ground beneath my feet is solid. The lesson in this story is not about revenge, and I want to be honest with you about that. What I did was documentation, legal process, and patience. What I refused to do was let something that was provably wrong continue to be treated as if it were ambiguous. The difference between revenge and justice is the difference between reacting and preparing. One gives you a moment. The other changes the situation permanently. I chose the permanent option. Every time. Without exception. I know what some of you are thinking. Did I go too far? Did I destroy 2 people's lives over money? My answer is this: I did not destroy their lives. I removed myself from a structure designed to exploit me, and I used every legal mechanism available to recover what was provably mine. The consequences Sophia and Marcus experienced were consequences of choices they made over 3.5 years, with full awareness of what they were doing. I did not create those consequences. I simply ensured they were not permitted to escape them. What I carry from this, and I want to be real with you, is not hatred. What I carry is a very precise understanding of how deception works. How it moves quietly. How it wears the face of the people closest to you. How it uses your trust as the environment in which it operates. That knowledge cost me something I did not choose to pay. But I am not willing to pretend it has no value. I see more clearly now than I ever have. That clarity is permanent. And it belongs entirely to me. If you stayed with me through every second of this story, I want you to know that what you just heard is not rare. This kind of betrayal happens more than most people want to acknowledge. What is less common is the response: methodical, patient, legal, and permanent. The response that does not feel satisfying in the moment but changes the outcome completely. That is what this channel exists to show. Real stories. The ones where karma does not arrive by accident but because someone refused to let the truth stay buried. $3 million. For generations of work. 14 years of friendship. 3 years of marriage. All of it weaponized. And what came out on the other side? A trust that still stands. A man who knows exactly who he is and what he will not accept again. And 2 people who discovered that deception, however sophisticated, eventually collapses under the weight of its own construction. Always. Without exception. Every single time. If this story shocked you, if it made your blood run cold at any point, I need you to do 3 things right now. Smash that like button so this story reaches the people who need to hear it. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next karma story on this channel. And drop the word karma in the comments right now and tell me, what would you have done in my place? I read every single comment and I reply to as many as I can. This is Karma Vault Stories. New video every week. See you in the next one.